15 minutes past 8 here on Kiwi. It's time to get the issues of the day from T-Radar's point of view. T-Radar, good morning.
Well, good morning to you.
And you're just back from the New Zealand Shearer of the Year Awards.
Fiercely competitive, fiercely fought out. I had the great pleasure of going down to Tikawiti for the yearly running of the sheep, one of the cultural highlights on our sporting calendar. For people who haven't been there, essentially, it's a wonderful day in Tikawiti. It used to be the shearing, sheep capital of the country. At one stage, sheep in their hundreds of thousands would pass through their rail marshalling yards. A bit smaller now, but they've retained this great tradition with the running of the sheep. So down the main street, you've got all your stalls and everything, and then they have a piece of scrim, which is sort of like some garden, some wind what's called wind matting that you have up to protect your garden, the big lengths of it. And down the main street, everyone gets to hold it up, and then they have a mob of sheep, anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 sheep, and they run down the main street.
That's had its controversy in past years, hasn't it? Any controversy this time around?
None whatsoever. No, it attracted controversy in Auckland because people thought it was, unfair to the animals, and they would be oddly stressed by it. But I saw the sheep pretty close up, and they didn't appear to be too stressed. Because sheep are sheep; they're not all that bright at the best of times. In fact, I once interviewed a guy called Richard Wolfe, ironically, who wrote a book about sheep, and he's an expert on them, and he believed that sheep's brains were actually getting smaller. The brain pan was shrinking, unlike many other animals, because they're so domesticated, and that we basically look after them to such an extent that they didn't need to think for themselves. So I saw the sheep, and the look in their eyes didn't say, I'm traumatised in any way, so much as, I'm not really sure what's going on here, but I'm too simple to understand.
Talking about sheep, Sally Ridge... no, I didn't. I didn't. Sally Ridge...
I'm going to put that one down, I'm sorry, as the best segue of the year to date.
No TV show, apparently, for her and her daughter.
No, there's a bit of hoo-ha this week, and you look at it, and just as you're sort of, looking at what it is that's coming on the television, what's going on, word came out that Sally Ridge and her daughter Jamie were going to have this sort of a New Zealand version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and there were various hilarious names that floated about through the Twitter sphere as people sort of came up with their own idea. And huge comments on the Stuff website. Within about 2 or 3 hours, 200-300 comments along the lines of the fact that people didn't consider this to be the best use of television time in the country. It's supposed to go on TV3. They've come out this week in a scandal mongering column in the Herald, and they've poo-pooed the idea. Said no, not for us. We're not actually going to be doing that. But the sort of the vitriol channeled towards them for this, and it sort of reminds you of the fact that there are people out there doing these things, and perhaps despite the vitriol, maybe people would have tuned in just so they could be the haters.
Man, really hard to do a show like that in a small village like New Zealand, that's for sure.
It is a small village, isn't it? And nonetheless, there they are. And you always see these people. Sally Ridge, goes to the opening of an envelope, and you see there was a bit of an interesting controversy a couple of weeks ago, actually, with the art gallery opened their new exhibition. I don't know if it's Degas and Monet. It's some kind of art, and they invited a whole lot of celebrities to the grand opening. Did you get invited, Wammo?
No, I must have missed that one in the mail. Yeah,
same. Yeah, obviously slipped by. But there was some controversy amongst people, trying to figure out, what is the point of inviting these people when that, there were people on the who helped get the exhibition over and various things who weren't invited, or they had to pay for their own tickets, and the celebrities came in, and it's all part of that grand machination of what is the point of inviting people.
Now, I mean, I don't want to seem like a whinging douchebag, but also there was the launch of that thing called Quick Flicks, which is pretty big tech news, entertainment news in New Zealand. This video streaming site, basically like Netflix in the States. They had a launch party. Ridge was there, and Ali Williams and a few other bods, and it was reported as a bunch of tech-savvy early adopters attended that launch party. I looked at the list, and anyway.
Because I would have thought, because you're all over that kind of thing. I follow your
look, as I say, I don't want to come across
about technology, and to be fair, I've seen nothing from any of them.
No, but apparently it was at a nice house in Remmers. I don't know what that says.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of stupidity, a couple of great cases for anyone who wants to be cheered up this week. Lost in translation is always a good one. You always hear of those people who get the Chinese symbol tattooed on their arm when they're overseas, and it turns out not to mean courage and strength. It means I'm a dick or whatever it may be. There was a bar down in or a restaurant down in Nelson, run by a guy called Fred Bennett. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to open up a Thai restaurant. So rather than going and getting a translation from, a proper sort of, I guess, authority in some ways, he had a Thai chef, and he says, can you provide me with a name for my restaurant? Give me a translation. I'm going to call it that. Chef was there for a period of time. Fred couldn't figure out why he wasn't getting a lot of Thai customers coming in.
Yeah.
A lot of Westerners, but very few Thais. Turns out when he left, a new chef turns up and said, so why was it that you called your restaurant the Go Away and Don't Come Back? So turns out the chef who had been there had a bit of a prank or mistranslated, and he's changed the name now to Victory Thai.
It's called Google Translate. That's all you need to do. If you're unsure, just put it in there.
Yeah, apparently a little bit difficult because, the language is, it's all the little symbols and all of that need to be accurately represented, but very, very sort of funny nonetheless. And then my favourite crime story of the week, there's always got to be one. Crime figures released this week, of course, and apparently, as usual, crime has purportedly gone down, but sexual assault, of course, that's gone up, and they're putting that down once again to increased reporting. You can only wonder how much increased reporting can continue before you start to think, are we really increasing the reporting or not? But there was a great guy down in Wellington and Porirua. He was riding a bicycle without a helmet. The police noticed him. He flipped them the bird. So the police, being the police, they pulled him up, discovered not only was he riding his bicycle without a helmet, but the bike that he was riding had allegedly been stolen from Miramar.
Yeah.
They checked the guy, his name out, put him through the system, warrant out for his arrest, search of his bag showed he was in possession of a whole lot of stolen property from various places. So look at that, there you go.
What an idiot!
You can't, if you were to put that in a film or something like that, people go, you can't do that. It's too absurd. No one would do that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, finally, let's finish on this one from overseas. A controversy about pasties.
Pasties. Look, all the time we get this. The politicians want to, get the sense that they're down with the local, down with the ordinary man, the common people. They have the common touch. There was a bit of controversy in the UK last week. They're looking at changing their tax laws with their GST, where you pay GST on hot food but not on cold food and various other things. One MP suggested that if you're going to go buy a pasty from a bakery and it was hot, if you waited until it was cold, the VAT wouldn't be on it. And so there was this whole thing of whether or not politicians, when was the last time you bought a pasty? And, it was David Cameron came out and said, I bought one from a train station not so long ago. It turns out that the pasty shop he quoted, having bought the pasty from, had closed down 4 years ago. Others couldn't remember when they bought a pasty, but they're sure they had at some stage. And I guess the equivalent here would be, when was the last time a politician went in and bought a pie? It's that price of milk kind of thing. When was the last time you paid for a bottle of milk? And generally, they haven't done it for years. So, the great pasty leveller over there in the UK. Yeah.
Our politicians are always really keen to say that they still go down to the corner store. I think John Key is big on that. He still goes down to the dairy and chats to the owner down there.
That's right, and then they haul the owner out for a bit of a comment, and he says, yes, he comes in and he buys his milk, and we have a wonderful chat. So the common touch, strolling down the street there in Parnell to the dairy, it's nice. Because that's the way we do it in New Zealand. Wallace, Wallace, I called you Wallace.
Jeepers.
Sorry, Wammo. That's the way, I was confusing my high-end political commentators, because, of course, congratulations on your new show. And I'm looking forward now to getting up at very early in the morning and tuning into some hard-hitting current affairs.
Yes, doing the First at 5 on Radio Live if you're up that early, but I'm pretty sure it's only P users and shift workers at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of folk get up early in the morning. They flick the radio on because they want to set the tone for the day. You're a tone setter. You're one of the people who are now shaping the debate and the issues of the day.
Well, I think that's what you've just done, T Radar. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
All right, Wammo, and we'll speak to you again next week.